And we are live, so you can do your old man sharing now.
I'll do my
Although
old man
your
sharing.
beard's getting
Offline.
kind of salt and pepper like mine as well. More salt than pepper.
Dude,
You're catching up,
my my
which is
mine's been great.
yeah, but mine is like all gray, which
Oh
is
yeah.
which sucks because you're older than me, and yet like you're catching up to me when it comes to the salt and pepper. It's horrible, man. I'm actually 23. I just look really old.
Yeah.
I didn't age well. Oh man. All right.
All
It's gonna be a good show today, I think. As soon as you get the sharing done.
right, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm
All right.
ready.
I'll run the intro and we'll get going. And where is it? There we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom.
Oh, hello everybody. How you doing? The Street Certified Dope Doctor here with you, and this is Dope and Dharma, the middle edition of Dope and Dharma. That's right. We're not Crips, we're not Bloods. We're right in the middle of the whole political scene, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. So we decided to come
Oh
on
boy.
early today on this Friday. Like I said, my name is Louis Delgado, the Dope Doctor, and of course that's the Dharma guy, my partner Trinity Phillips. What's up, brother?
Hey, what is up?
A lot happening. Lots up, Trinity.
You think?
You know. Yeah, I wasn't ready to go on until like 12, but man, all this stuff is happening, and it's like we just got to go on. Let's start talking about it. We got friends that actually know a little bit more about this than us, man. So we're
Yeah.
gonna have to activate some friendships to kind of explain what the hell is going on today, Trinity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's
So
good times.
yeah. So let's reserve all that. So you know who he is, you know who I am. Of course, Trinity. Real quick, tell them how to follow us if they want to join us, if they want to communicate with us, and then we'll bring on our first guest.
Yeah, as usual, you can find us on any of the podcasting forums, whichever your favorite one is. On social media, he is at the Dope Doctor. I am at the Dharma Guy, and we are at Dope and Dharma. If you like to watch us live and comment and give us your thoughts and opinions, you can check us out on either Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, all under Dope and Dharma.
That's right. That's right. Of course, we have a good friend of ours that's actually he's
Yeah.
he's running for a political office. So it's
Yep.
it's a perfect person to at least ask these questions to, because live on TV, if you're doing what I'm doing, I'm flipping back from CNN to Fox to CNN to Fox, and like on one channel, everybody looks sad and solemn, and you would have thought Trump just got reelected, and on the other side, they're all celebrating as if Trump just got reelected. So let's
Yeah.
so let's bring on Scott Sturgill. Scott Sturgill, what's happening, brother?
Hey.
You're running for Congress as well, so we'll get to that in a little bit.
I
But
am.
what's happening?
Not too much. Thanks for having me on today, guys. It's a exciting day. It's a big ruling from the Supreme Court today, and it's
Yeah.
it's going to change. Not going to change a whole lot. It's just going to kick it from the federal down to each state is going to make their own decisions when it comes to abortion at this point.
All right, so 2 days in a row, Scott, the Supreme Court has made news. They really need their own Twitter account, apparently, or something like that. Maybe they have one, but for 2 days in a row, there's some pretty big rulings that have gone out. So let's start with the one that we're watching happening right now. So this overturning of Roe v. Wade. Now we heard it was coming. Like there was leaks, right? There were leaks
Yeah.
that it's coming, but it just feels different now that it actually came through. And you said it's good news, but for a lot of people, it's bad news. So what really is happening without sides? Just what is it that's happening right now?
So this is actually one of the first times where the Supreme Court actually had leaks ahead of time,
Yeah.
before their rulings came out. So it's very unprecedented. I know they are doing investigations within the Supreme Court to find out, was it a justice, was it a staffer, one of their clerks who did it? Because it'll definitely, somebody's going to be responsible for whoever did it, a few weeks ago.
Right.
But what we're finding is that, with this ruling, the Supreme Court kicking it, it's going to take it down to every state is now going to make their own decision when it comes to Roe v. Wade. So you're going to have conservative states like Florida, where this past legislative session, we have a cap at 15 weeks. So anything more than 15 weeks, you are not you're not eligible for an abortion in the state of Florida. But there's going to be states that are more liberal, who are just going to they're going to keep it going as long as they can. For me, I'm 100% pro-life. It's not something that agree with. I'm a proud father of 2 daughters. So I can't imagine life without anyone, without my kids. But again, it's you see the emotions are running all over the place. You see Nancy Pelosi's on TV right now crying, saying it's a tragedy. But the reality is is going to make that.
Uh-oh. Do we lose him?
I think Nancy Pelosi just attacked you, brother. I think you just got attacked. You went blank there for a second.
It was a potential spam call that was coming through. So I
was going to say, you better watch out because Zuckerberg attacks us on the regular, man. So you better watch.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So he attacked here. So.
Look, Scott, let me ask you something because I just saw Nancy Pelosi speak, and she used the words that this is unconstitutional. So this is where I'm confused as a regular person. See, because Trinity and I, we're not Crips or Bloods, man. We're not part of all your all's gangs and stuff. We go with whichever one of you make the most sense at the moment. We follow your lead. You know what I mean? Whatever fits, our situation at the moment, or if you happen to make more sense at the moment. And so I want to understand this. She says it's unconstitutional. From Trinity and I's understanding, the Supreme Court follows Constitution probably better than anyone. So is it unconstitutional, or is that just an opinion, or is it
fact? No, that's just her rhetoric, and she's trying to obviously appeal to her base to say it's unconstitutional. I mean, give the Supreme Court credit. They follow the letter of the law, pretty good. You may not always agree with their decisions or their rulings, but the Supreme Court is, very, they think out their decisions very, very clearly before they make them. So it's not an issue where, it's unconstitutional. That's just Pelosi trying to play the political game and the media game at this point.
Okay. And it seems like people want the Supreme Court to follow the emotion of whatever law they're passing. You know what I mean? It seems like they're like, well, don't they see what's going on? I mean, it seems like people are trying to, I don't know. I don't know if people really understand what the Supreme Court is, to be honest with you, by some of the comments that I'm reading. You know what I mean? Because I could agree with it or not agree with it, but I don't know enough about Constitution to have the opinion whether they did the right or wrong thing.
Look, we have 3 branches, of government for a reason. Our founding fathers, they wanted to make sure that there was checks and balances. So you have the executive branch, you have the legislative branch, and then you have the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, has the ultimate, last say on anything to make sure it is within the letter of the law, follows the Constitution. Right. So again, what they've done here is they've thought out, this wasn't something that they, did very quickly. They've been studying this issue in these briefs for a number of years. So, so it's definitely I think it's the right decision. It's a, it's a victory for everyone who is 100% pro-life. And again, at the end of the day, it's just kicking it back to the states and let each state legislature.
Right. Trinity, what is that saying right there?
This is a listener off of Twitch. Matter of fact, I think he was the funny one that was with us a few weeks ago. He said, you see the politicians calling the overruling of gun legislation yesterday unconstitutional as well. Wouldn't be surprised if Nancy was spewing shite, as he called it, about that as well. Also, hi from England, the UK. What's up, man? How you doing? Glad to see you're back with us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then you talk about the ruling. It's again, I'm 100% pro Second Amendment. I'm a concealed carry guy every day. So again, taking away rights, we need to make sure that again we protect our gun rights and your right to bear arms and protect your family.
Right. And so right before we went on, like Dharma guy was saying nothing changed today, and I was like, Trinity, it seems like a lot just changed, and he's saying nothing changed today. What were you talking about, Trinity?
No, I was saying that people are walking around acting as if like now all of a sudden they can't go get an abortion in places that they could yesterday, and I don't think that's simply not the case. I mean, all it did really is give the power back to the states. So those are going to have to now be voted on and put through and kind of go through the process. In other words, it wasn't like an instantaneous thing that just happened. Now all of a sudden it's illegal.
like somebody in the chair right now. Is that what you mean? I mean
well, I mean, yeah, if you were,
I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but I mean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying if you were in a situation where abortion was the option that you were going to try to do yesterday, wherever you were going to do it at yesterday, you could still do it at today, is what I was saying.
Well,
that might change now in a few months.
Okay, well, let's ask the question to Scott. Scott, it's my understanding, Scott, that some states already had preemptively prepared for this and
Correct.
and put rules in the books that says we will outlaw it as soon as the federal government allows us to. So is that not so, or is that the case?
Well, there are some states that did kind of like preempt this, and so states like Florida put a 15-week rule in place, and that was voted on by the legislature. So again, all as I tell people, all elections have consequences. And
Right.
again, if obviously if you're on the left leaning side today, you're probably not real happy with what's going on. But again,
Nope.
that's why we have elections. We have people who are representing every citizen out there. So if you're not happy with the way things are going, then I suggest you run for office or you get behind the candidate of your choosing. But again, I think our elected representatives are doing exactly what the voters have put them in place for. So here in Florida, we're a very conservative state. The governor and the legislature believe that 15 weeks was the absolute limit that they're willing to do. There are going to be some states that are going to 100% outlaw and ban it. I think like states like Oklahoma, and I would expect Texas is probably going to tighten up. So your very conservative states are going to definitely tighten it up. But you're going to see states, your Californias, your northeastern states, where they're very liberal, they're very left leaning. They're going to probably expand it even more to probably take it up to full term. Again, obviously I don't agree with them because again I'm 100% pro life, but it is so again if somebody's going to attempt to get an abortion, there's going to be places they can go to get it done. It's not being outlawed. It's just kicking it to each state to make their own decisions.
Now, music was different. The feel was different. People talk different. I kind of like that. With rules or laws, I want to stay to that same belief system that each state should have its own. But right now I want to speak to the people that get really frustrated about what they do in another state, right? Because like, let's say you live in California, but you're really concerned about like what you just said, Oklahoma. So should you really get upset about Oklahoma if you live in California? I mean, because we do see a lot of that, right? You see a lot of Hollywood people that don't even live in some of these other states, but they go to that other state and make a noise.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what they do, and that's it's kind of their MO of what they're going to continue to do. Is they, for some reason, that all these Hollywood elitists think we actually care what their opinion is. The reality is I wish they would keep their opinion, keep it in California. In fact, what the best thing
it's just like I kind of look at right.
Stay as an actor because we don't go to the movies because we want to hear your political opinion. We go to the movies because we want to be entertained.
So
100%.
I actually got a question, right? Because there's something that's been bugging me for a little while, and you might be able to shed some light on this as well, Scott. It being the fact that you're in the political arena here, maybe you share the same opinion as I do, and I'm fully aware that you are running, so you gotta watch what you say. I get that. I personally, it feels disingenuous to me when I see the amount of people protesting right now, and the reason why it feels disingenuous is over the last probably 10 years, maybe longer. I've watched news stories. Like I try to stay as plugged in as I can. And so places like Texas, for instance, they've already been making abortions for all intents and purposes illegal, right? In other words, what they've been doing is they've been making laws that would make it to where whichever doctor is found doing that, he loses hospital privileges. They'll go into an abortion clinic and say that you have to now you have to make the hallways 2 feet wider, and so that it shuts them down. So in effect, like I think nowhere in Texas you could, or something like that. In Louisiana, there's like one. So they've already kind of been dismantling this in a roundabout way for many years, and nobody seems to be protesting. So actual things are taking place that are doing away with your desire to do an abortion, and you say nothing. And then this happens, and the media puts it out there, and now all of a sudden you're concerned about it. So it feels disingenuous. Like, have you seen protesting about this stuff for the last 10 years when they do these little laws? Because I haven't.
There are protesting, but again, you got to remember, most of these protesters are professionals.
Right.
You're going to see it out in front of the Supreme Court right now, and it's amazing how fast they can get. All of a sudden, a group of citizens, right, to come out and show up, right? I'm pretty sure they all have jobs, right? But their job is actually to be professional protesters. So that's why the left and the Democrats can get people out there within a matter of minutes to start protesting. Anytime they have an issue that they want attention to.
Yeah, it just feels weird
Right.
because like I was shocked, to be honest with you, when I first saw it. Right, when I saw like a news story a while back, I think it was like Vice News or something. I don't know. They did a whole expose on it. They did a story, and a lot of these states, like I think they mentioned like Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, were some of the ones that they mentioned. Mississippi, in that general area, they've essentially been dismantling abortion laws for years now and making it virtually impossible to get one. So for all intents and purposes, it is illegal for the most part, right? It's not outright illegal, but it kind of is.
Well,
And
there's gonna be 16 states who have already indicated that it will be illegal in their states
sure,
within a matter of next few weeks or months. Their legislatures are gonna, obviously
sure.
put the screws to it
And
immediately.
and for those ones, I get the protesting. I guess if it means something to you, I guess what I'm getting at is for the last several years, there's been like one in Louisiana, one place you can go in the entire state of Louisiana, because all the other ones were essentially pushed out with different laws and different rules. Where was the protesting for that? Like, if you genuinely care about this issue, where was the protesting when that was happening?
Correct.
Well,
there was none. And
I
again,
don't know about I don't know if there was protesting, Trinity, but I do, I do have some friends that are pretty on the other side as well, and they had been mentioning that for a long time. They've been saying like, you should watch what's going on. And it's like, well, that issue really doesn't bother me. Here's where it bothers me. I have daughters, right?
Exactly.
I have daughters, and so the kind of stuff that I look at with daughters is if you're going to go these kind of routes and get really up in arms about something, then I'm going to say, like, if you don't wear a condom and get my daughter pregnant, then you should be hit with attempted murder or something like that. Where are you going to go with these rulings, right? Like, I can't stop someone from getting pregnant. You have a choice whether to have sex or not, just like you have a choice whether to take fentanyl or not, right? So, like, if you take fentanyl, right? If you didn't intend to take fentanyl, that's one thing. But if you went out there and took fentanyl and you know that fentanyl kills you right now, that bothers me. It bothers me that your addiction is so bad that you're willing to risk your life for it. But we have treatments and we have thought processes and we have things about that, right? Well, with sex, we never approach the sexual part of this issue. We only approach it on the abortion part, but never
Yep.
talk about hey, how about let's go out, let's just stop. Can we understand that sex leads to pregnancy? Can we get this fact at least out there? Sex
Breaking
leads to
news.
pregnancy. Breaking news, everybody. By the way, if you have sex with somebody, you're probably going to get pregnant because
eventually.
yeah. I mean, it's just part of the deal. Have you not noticed that 100% of the people that have had babies had sex? 100% of the people that had babies had sex.
Obviously,
Never mind.
class.
Because now
IVF.
you can in vitro. You can in vitro.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, never mind.
Trinity, obviously, we know which class Louis really paid attention to in high school.
Exactly.
Yo, man, look, man.
I bet he got an A in that class for participation.
I think we all did.
I was one of those that I never used it. My wife was the first person I ever used a condom with. I finally got responsible when it came to my wife. But you know what? I've been responsible ever since with her. And so we planned out. Both of our children were planned. Both of our children were in planned times. You have to get to a point where you're either responsible or you're irresponsible. But every time we talk about this issue, we only focus on the abortion part instead of the responsibility of, hey guys, we have a responsibility in this. How many of you guys out there are like, yeah, I don't like wearing condoms. I don't care what you like, bro. If you're going to be with somebody, take responsibility and ownership, because once you release, then it's their responsibility. Then it's their issue, and they can do anything they want with it. And you may not like what they do with it. And now the courts are involved. And so there's all kinds of situations that get people all heated and emotional about this. But there's one issue that we say on the show all the time. And it's like, listen, we have protected little turtle eggs for a long time and said turtle eggs are not to be messed with. Here we live in Florida. We live by the beach. You're not even allowed to have flashlights at the beach at nighttime and all this stuff just to protect these turtle mounds. But then when it came to pregnant women, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's not really a baby yet. That's not really a baby yet. And so everybody has their issue on that. The same people that are protect turtle eggs, for some reason, think it's okay to have an abortion all the way up and through whatever. Now, I'm not for it or against it in that respect. I don't know your personal situation, but I don't want to be part of the conversation with you, ladies. I do want you to have some choices. I do want you to have freedom of your body. I do want you to be able to do whatever you want to do. But where I want to take it to is the responsibility part in getting pregnant in the first place. I don't blame someone if they got raped or if they were molested or anything like that. But in getting pregnant in the first place, I think we should teach a hell of a lot more responsibility to the men, to the young women, the young men, or the other people. Abortion is not a form of contraception, and
No.
so I do get why the other people take issue with it. People like you, Scott, and your political party. I do get why you guys say pro-life, because the definition of life is at stake here, right? Like, what is
Correct.
life?
Correct.
And I get it, man. So
And for us, again, like you, Louis, I've got 2 daughters. So again, I'm 100% pro-life. I mean, obviously, there is the caveat for, rape, incest, or the mother's health, if the mother's health is in serious. But again, that has to be looked at, again, how far along in the pregnancy cycle are they? Again, it's an issue. But I think it comes down to, exactly what Governor DeSantis said the other day. Men, it's time to be responsible and take responsibility for your actions. Make sure you raise your kids right.
Yeah.
And again, means also teaching your kids about sex, teaching them, making sure they pay attention, because you're right, Louis. If people would, put a little bit of attention into this, probably wouldn't have, all these, unplanned pregnancies at this point. And again, abortion should never be used for, as an example with, it should never be used as a form of birth control. And unfortunately, there is a segment of people who do use it as a form of birth control. And again, it's, I'm not here to judge anyone, but what I'm going to tell you is, at some point, everyone's going to have to make their decision and talk to God about their decision, what choices they made. And so again, today's ruling kicks it to the states. Each state will make their own decision based on their legislatures. And again, so the people who are all in, crying and going through dramatics and antics today, again, that's hysteria. It's hysteria for the media today. Again, they need to go focus on their states. If they want to change, they need to go, lobby their state legislators, to express their opinions. And that's where, these laws are going to put in place.
I still stand by. I still stand by something we said a few weeks ago on a show we did when this first kind of hit. 2 things that I have a major problem with is that you touched on it there when it says a whole about the my body, my choice kind of a thing. I hate the fact that we're only talking about choice as if that was the first choice that they made, right? Like the first choice you made was having unprotected sex with somebody. Let's not forget that. And the other thing I have a huge problem with is this notion that because of our genitalia, we're not allowed to talk about it, right? Like, you're not a woman, so you can't make that is the biggest load of crap that I've ever heard, man. Like, first of all, I know science is good, but from what my understanding is, there is no science yet that you can make a baby without a man. So it's equally ours as much as it's yours. And the decision was made prior to that situation. Like, you didn't get pregnant miraculously. You didn't just wake up one day, oh my gosh, how'd that happen? No, you made a choice. And so I do think that those need to be talked about. I have 2 boys and 2 girls, and I'm telling them all, hey, practice safe sex. Don't get into, I'm teaching them the responsibility aspect of these things. So hopefully I never have to deal with the abortion conversation at all.
One of the greatest comments I think I've seen when it comes to this was by a conservative friend of mine who posted on Facebook at Mother's Day. He said, for all you folks who, again, who are my body, my choice, make sure you wish your mom a happy Mother's Day today for making the right choice. So it was, he got quite a few angry comments on it, but it was, it's kind of like, it's, make sure you wish your mother a happy Mother's Day.
People get heated. I agree with a lot of things that both of you have been saying, and on this issue, it's just a tough one for me because I'm the kind of person that I don't like government being involved in my life at all. But I think that's the weird thing about this, right? I've always known the Republican Party to be that party that doesn't want government involvement, right? And the Democratic Party being the one that likes it because they want everybody more equal. So even though I've always been registered independent, I've always found myself leaning more left on a lot of issues growing up. And it's only until now where some of these issues just have been a little bit more attacking my dollar, attacking my money, attacking my family, attacking the way I'm raising my children, right? I'm trying to teach my children the difference between right and wrong and that this country loves us. And it seems like one side says, no, they hate you. So you have to vote with us because they hate you. They don't like you because you're Mexican and they're racist. And it's like, whoa, stop teaching my kids that there's 50% of the people out there are racist because they're not. And stop teaching my kids that just because they believe in God, for some reason we should vilify them and we should attack them. They should be able to believe in God just like you're able to not believe in God. There's a lot of freedoms here that I agree with the CNN that says our freedoms are being attacked, but I think it's being attacked by both polar opposites, not by the people mostly in the middle. And I find you, Scott, to be a very reasonable man. We're friends because I find you to be a very reasonable man. Even though you are a Republican, you're not like the Republican that CNN paints you out to be. CNN paints you out to be some
yeah,
crazy
they
whack
have
job.
their own view on me. So
Yeah, the way they talk is just it's like, do you even know these people, or are you just saying that because you want to get everybody riled up? You know what I
no,
mean?
it's a stereotype, and they want to paint us all in the same corner. The
Right.
reality is again, I think most people, are common sense. I'm a fiscal conservative. Again,
Right.
I don't want my tax dollars being wasted. I'm tired of tax dollars
Right.
being pushed around and sent to other countries who hate us, who
Right.
support terrorism. I want to keep that money here. Let's make sure we take care of Americans first at this point.
Right.
As we should always be doing, is protect Americans first and protect America first. So, there's a lot of issues that we have with the campaign. Obviously we're running it in Congressional District 7, which covers Seminole County and a good portion of Volusia County, going up to Port Orange and Daytona Beach shores and everything south. But, what we're seeing is we're seeing people hurt every day through this economy. You're seeing gas prices. You're filling up for $4.68 a gallon right now, and that's hurting people. People are rising food costs. They're getting into, rising housing costs. Everything in their life is going up. But the problem is salaries are not. The salaries are not staying in it. So again, we have a lot of issues that we have to address.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to that, Scott? Because look, I just got a 20% increase in my landscaping even. I mean, it's everywhere. It's not just, because let me tell you something. I
My
spent
house
80
insurance.
Well, yeah. My house insurance went up. Everything has gone up. Everything. No, this gas thing that President Biden spoke about the other day. I would love to get excited about that. I would love to say thank you very much for lowering it. But obviously there's a trickle down effect when you don't take as much money. Somebody's going to pay that price. Somebody's got to pay it. I mean, I'm a realistic man. I've been a business owner all my life, so I know that if you give over here with this other hand, I know the other hand is taking it from somewhere or something, right? So we're probably not getting too much into that. But is that really going to fix this problem, or how do you feel about that whole?
No, it's a temporary fix, because basically what he's doing is he's going to kind of relieve the gas tax, in which that gas tax goes into the fund to maintain our roads and our interstates and all of our infrastructure. And so he's going to eliminate that. The real problem is the pipeline. If he had just kept the pipeline going, we were energy independent 2 years ago. We were exporting 20% of our oil. But also the other thing he's doing, it's not only the construction of the pipeline, but when he stopped the construction of the pipeline, he stopped all these small business owners like you, Louie, and you, Trinity, the ones that had hotels, that had restaurants, where this pipeline was being built, the home builders, the car dealers, insurance agents. All these other people were drastically hurt by them stopping the pipeline. But the other issue is the Biden administration is in federal court as we speak, and they've been there for the last few weeks, blocking the federal leases in the Gulf of Mexico. Leases that have already been issued to oil companies to drill and be able to bring up oil that could be kept here. Instead, what we're doing is we're buying expensive oil from OPEC and all the Middle Eastern countries who absolutely hate us, who are supporting terrorism with those profits. And again, we're relying on them. And Biden can't even use the argument of this is a carbon footprint issue, because I'm going to tell you, it seems like it takes a lot more transit and carbon footprint to put that oil on tankers and put it across the ocean for us to reprocess it here. So again, the people are getting hurt, and the reality is Biden and the Democrats, they don't care. They want to make people reliant on the government for social programs. And again, it's something that we need to address firsthand. And again, I'm one of the only people in my race who actually brings solutions, because I'm a business owner. Look, we make decisions every day, tough decisions that a lot of times our employees don't understand. Again, I'm speaking to you both because you both are business owners. Sometimes our employees think we're crazy and we're out of touch with reality, but we know it's the best decision for our companies and for the longevity of our companies. But we also need to make sure that that southern border is secure. And again, if somebody wants to come to this country, there is a pathway for legal immigration. They can go to a port of entry. They can apply for immigration. But the amount of fentanyl and sex trafficking that is coming through our country, through those borders, from China as Mexico as a distributor, is absolutely astounding. And Louis, I know you guys know about the fentanyl and how deadly it is and how many people are being poisoned with it every day and dying every day. But also the human trafficking and sex trafficking. Central Florida is number 3 in the nation for this.
Yeah.
And it is a major problem. It's number 1 in the state of Florida.
It really
We've
is.
got to stop it. We've got to allow law enforcement to do their jobs and enforce the laws that are in the books, and stop the Biden administration from handcuffing, our police officers and telling them, well, don't enforce this law. You know what? Those laws are on the books for a reason. Let's let our law enforcement do their jobs. Let's make sure they have every tool that they need, because, the men and women in blue and in all of our first responders, they protect us. They make sure that when we,
Oh no.
that we can, our families are protected. So sorry, we had to get rid of that call that was coming in there, but we make sure that our families are protected. And again, and it also comes down to education, parents being involved in the education system, parents working with teachers, because I tell you, when you have parents that are involved, in their kids' lives, and they're working with the teachers hand in hand, that's going to stop a lot of the issues and a lot of the criminal stuff that we see teenagers getting into, off of school property. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up with an Italian mama, so and 2 older brothers. So if we ever got in trouble at school, I can assure you it was going to be a lot worse at home than than what school or law enforcement could ever do, because it's
right.
But I was blessed to have parents that were involved in my life, every day, and they're still involved in my life, and that's the way that I raise my daughters, is making sure I know what's going on. I'm not a helicopter parent, but I'm going to make sure I know what's going on and who they're interacting with, because it's a dangerous world. It's a lot different of a world than what we all grew up in. And especially with the, with social media and phones and everything, these kids are exposed. So again, parents have to be involved. You have to pay attention. And again, we need people in Washington who don't want to make this a career. For me, it's a few terms and then we're out of there. The next generation can take over, because I don't have all the answers, but I do surround myself with great people like Trinity and you, Louis, that can give me the pluses and minuses on every subject. And so I'm blessed to be able to have a network of people who I can turn to and say, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that you can make a proper decision. I think when you make decisions have to be made not based on your next election. Make them on what's in the best interest of Americans in America. And so I'm blessed that, Governor DeSantis, pointed me last year to the Seminole State College Board. And one of his things was no rubber stamps. I want you to ask questions. I want you to help, fix this college. And let's also make sure that we're developing trade school programs for kids who don't want to go to college, and let's start getting them early. Let's start talking to them and their parents in middle school and find out, all right, hey, is this the career path that you may want to go on? If so, let's get you the tools and get you there so that, you can go out and, make your own mark, and live the American dream.
I really appreciate all that you say, Scott. And we've had our differences, on the border situation when it first became a conversation. When Trump was first getting elected the first time. Remember we I was like, well, let him run. I was all about let him run, because there was no caravans at that point. It was just it was the way I grew up. I grew up on the border. I'm a Mexican, but I come from a family that knew how to do it correctly, and were trained properly on how to do it correctly. A government family, whereas other families they weren't educated that way. A lot of people that come over, they have a 3rd grade education. They don't know how to do it legitimately, and they'd have to pay people to get it done legitimately anyway. So they choose to do it another way because they're told that if they do it legitimately, that they're going to be taken out of their homes at any point in time, anytime the Americans feel like it, and send you back. So they get manipulated into paying $1,500 or $3,000 American dollars in advance with no assurity that they're going to make it to the other side safely. They know their women are going to get raped. They know they're going to get it. They take that risk because they don't know how to do it legitimately and safely. And so that's where our American government needs to do it. So Scott, we do like a lot of things that you have to say. We do want to vote for people like you, but if you're going to, get into these issues, please fix it so it's the right thing to do. The DACA, I love the DACA the way it was. If you know a better way to to do it, where people can not have to go back to a country that they weren't ever raised in. It's like sending me back to Mexico. I don't want to go to Mexico. I don't, as Mexican as I am, blood wise and face wise and all that stuff, I'm an American, man. And so, I'm staying here. I'm not going nowhere. So there's a lot of people just like me in this situation, except they were born, in a situation where they may have to go back. So it's little things like that get us mixed up. But today was all about Supreme Court. Today was all about people like you that can help explain the Supreme Court situation to us. And we really appreciate it, Scott. So go ahead and tell everybody how they can support someone like you. We have people that are watching and listening that says they want to vote for you, even though they can't because they're in New York. The person that said it is in New York, so she can't.
Hey, that's all right. They can help support our campaign because, obviously at the federal level.
There you go. She can donate.
We're going to vote on issues that affect everyone, no matter where you live. So, it's the folks who are in our district that vote for us. But, they can go to scottsturgillforcongress.com, follow us, read our bio. If they want to make a contribution, we'd love to have their support. These campaigns are extremely expensive. I'm running up against 10 other people in my primary who 3 of them are from Washington, D.C., trying to parachute in. And then I've got, all these other folks who are actually from outside of the district. And again, I believe that you should understand your district. You should understand the issues. You got to be passionate about it and, want to be a servant. Right. And so, but they can also follow us on our Facebook page, Scott Sturgill for Congress, Facebook page, Twitter at Scott_Sturgill, or Instagram. So again, I appreciate you guys letting me come on today, and hopefully I can join you guys on another segment. Yes,
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
And we didn't touch on it just yet. And I know we have our resident lawyer that just logged in, and he's in our green room at the moment. And I can let him chime in on this as well. But the other argument that we didn't kind of touch on, but I'd like to get your thoughts before you leave, that it's making the rounds, is a lot of people are saying that one of the things that they're worried about with the Roe v. Wade thing is they're going to use that now to also strip other rights, like same-sex marriage, etc. What are your thoughts on that? What do you say to those people?
Well, same-sex marriage has already been ruled on by the Supreme Court. So again, that's the people who want hysteria. They want to create doubt. They want to, create, additional drama. Again, the Supreme Court is very thoughtful in their process. They are not known to be quick to act on anything. And so they study the issues a long time. Sometimes it's several years before they've even made a ruling or even thinking about doing an opinion. So again, I would say at this point, the Supreme Court, they'll do their summer recess here pretty soon and then pick up again back in October, which is when their session generally starts. So again, I wouldn't expect any more rulings from them at this point.
Right on.
Guys, well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it today. And
perfect.
Everyone, please go to ScottSturgillForCongress.com or follow us on Facebook at Scott Sturgill for Congress.
Right on.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thanks,
thank
guys.
your mom
Appreciate
for us too. Say hi to your mom for me, brother.
I will do it.
All right, brother. Talk
Take
to you
care,
later.
guys.
Thank you. That was Scott Sturgill, running for Congress here in Florida, man. And look, Greg, landscape mode if you have it. Greg, can you put it sideways this way?
Let's see what I got here. Let's see if I can do that.
All right, look at that.
Dude, it looks a lot better. Look at that. That's Mr. Greg Jackson. He's an attorney here locally in town in Orlando. So, Greg, I don't know how much of the show you've listened to or heard. It sounds like you were in a deposition, so you probably been.
I was actually in a mediation. I was in a mediation fighting for my clients, and it was successful. I can't tell you how much I just got somebody, but let's just say they may be buying a small island somewhere in Tahiti.
Nice.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, man. That's awesome. I'm sure we'll see the commercial soon.
Yeah, it won't be my face, but the commercial it won't be my face.
Yeah. Oh, we know how that is. We know how that is. But we know the truth. But anyway, Mr. Greg Jackson is an attorney here in Orlando, like we said. And Greg, we just had Scott Sturgill on. I'm assuming you know Scott. He's been around for quite a while in Central Florida. And we've been talking about this ruling. I mean, for the last 2 days, it's like, I like flipping from CNN to Fox, and CNN's been crying for 2 days, and Fox has been celebrating for 2 days. And so can you help just break it down to us for just a normal listener? You know that Trinity and I we're in the middle. We're not Crips. We're not Bloods. We don't prescribe to any gang. And so we just want to know from the regular point of view, what is happening right now?
I mean, and first and foremost, let me just say I do know Scott Sturgill very well. Scott and I met almost 10 years ago. He is a good friend of mine. And despite the fact that he and I are from 2 different parties, as you always know, I vote people over party. And Scott Sturgill is a friend, and I'm sure that he will do a yeoman's job in the U.S. Congress. So I know that all of my Democrat family members are jumping up and down, hitting the screen right now. But listen, like I said, Scott has proven himself to be a worthy individual to speak for the issues of individuals in our area, and I wish him the best of luck. And he's right. Money is the lifeblood of campaigns, so let's get him some money. And I apologize if I took up too much time. But that aside, listen, what the U.S. Supreme Court just did, it just basically ratified what the U.S. Constitution has already told us, is that we have a right to bear arms even outside of our homes. And in particular, in this particular case, New York had a centuries-old law where it basically said that they had to make a determination on if you were fit to have a concealed weapon, and that's not what the Constitution has promised us. That's not the right that we were bestowed by our Constitution. It says that we have a right to bear arms. Now, the other thing too is that, and I heard some congresswoman say, I think it was the mayor of New York, which New York should be happy that the Supreme Court is going to give its citizens an opportunity to protect themselves, where they have defunded the police severely, and crime is on the uptick in that city. And law-abiding citizens should have the opportunity to defend themselves. But this one governor said, well, the Constitution at the time, during that time, they had muskets. And so if you want to go back to the time of muskets, where you had field-grade, weapons, I'll go back to that time. I mean, that is one of the most ridiculous comments I've ever heard, because, if I remember correctly, they had pistols too, right? So they didn't just have muskets, they had pistols. So
that's right.
I think that the Constitution contemplated that we have the right to protect ourselves through the use of bearing arms, whatever those arms may be. So.
Yeah, is there real quick a point that was brought up to me? So I have a buddy of mine who's a police officer up in New York, and he knows we do our shows. So he actually asked me the other day what my thoughts were. And what occurred to me when I was looking into it, somebody asked a question, and I thought was a phenomenal question. Are there any other rights that we have that we first have to prove that we deserve it before we get it?
No,
and that's what they were doing. Was, this is your right, but you got to prove it first. Like, no, it's my right.
Yeah. Well, some people think they have the right to drive, and that's not a right. So, in order to drive, you have to do a test and get a driver's license, but driving is not a right. For the fundamental rights that are contemplated under the Bill of Rights and through the Constitution, there's no other right that is bestowed upon us that we have to prove that we're entitled to that right. And that's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I will say the one caveat, let me just take a step back. The one caveat is the right to vote. And for individuals who have been convicted of a felony, they have to, have those rights restored. But aside from that, there are no other rights where you have to prove that you're entitled to those rights.
Mm-hmm. But that one also applies to the guns as well, because if you're a felon, you can't bear arms either. So I guess, I don't know if it's a constitutional thing or something that they got changed later on, but as soon as you become a felon, I think you kind of give up some of your rights. Now, I'm not so sure that should be the case or not the case. We're not arguing that today, but I love the way you're explaining this, because, everything seems to be such a red or blue issue at the moment, right? It's like you're supposed to think a certain way if you watch certain channels. You know what I mean? Or you're supposed to think a certain way if you're a certain political party. But I think what Trinity and I really enjoy about you, Greg, is that regardless of your political affiliation, you are a man of reason and intelligence, and we can always have a conversation with you, and we don't have to agree, but we can have a conversation. And I think that's what's important about, our show, We the Middle. We want to just have a conversation about it without getting all emotional and not making rules and laws and judgments about our emotions. Because just like in a relationship, if you base all your decisions off emotion, you're going to have difficulty in your relationship. Sometimes hard decisions need to be made. And so in this situation, we also, besides calling, the red and blue Crips and Bloods like we do so often, we also call it mom and dad. And in mom and dad situation, a lot of times mom is a lot more, mom will come visit you in prison, even if you cut your partner up in little pieces. Mom's going to come put money in your commissary, come visit you. That's my baby. That's my baby. That's my baby. And then dad is always like, nah, he's a jackass. He's an idiot. I'm not going to go visit him. He can do that. Right. That's what dads tend to do. But also in laws and rules in the home, where you have two parents, sometimes one parent is a little bit more strict than the other. Right. Yeah. In what we've seen, I think, as we grow older, we tend to understand the stricter parent a lot more as we go older. I think we've all come to realize that as we got older, we understood the stricter parent more. even though we're friendlier with the softer parent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And politics seem to do that, right? Politics seem to be very similar. Like some rules and laws feel better, but they don't necessarily operate better. They don't necessarily make us better as a society.
Yeah.
Like some decisions are just difficult. Is this one of those times? Are we watching that? Are some of these rulings just a little bit better for us as a society, even though they don't appear to feel better?
You know, I think some of these rules have become far too necessary. And what I mean by that, I think the focus that Congress should take and that legislators should take is more so, why is it that people feel the need to bear arms? And it's not just against some tyrannical government or some uprising against the government, but people just don't feel safe at this time. And it's unfortunate because at a time when people don't feel safe, certain politicians feel that it is appropriate to attack what police are doing because of a couple of bad seeds. They feel it's necessary to take away certain or attempt to take away certain rights from individuals because they don't like the fact that individuals want to protect themselves by using what they call assault rifles and weapons and things like that. But we're at this point because people don't feel safe. And why don't people feel safe? They want to take away, and if we look at what Congress is getting ready to try to do, and some I agree with and some of it I have some questions about, but what Congress is getting ready to try to do is to address the gun control issue by effectively changing how old an individual can be to get a weapon and different things like that. That's what it's going to boil down to be. But in this particular circumstance and situation, what I would like to really see them do is to focus more on the illegal guns on the street. Right. Stop penalizing the individuals who have a right to carry a gun or a weapon or whatever you want to call it, and taking our rights and abilities to protect ourselves away, and focus on, why is it that in New York that a person was able to go and rob a bank, go to jail, get out of jail, go rob another bank, go to jail, get out of jail, go rob another bank, or was it may have been California, I can't remember, but there are states where individuals are being arrested and placed in jail for serious crimes and let back out. There's circumstances, situations where individuals, young kids or otherwise, are being caught with weapons and aren't being prosecuted the way that they should be. So people don't feel safe. Like myself, I've been a concealed weapons holder for several years now. And the reason why is because one day when I'm sitting at a stoplight in the great city of Jacksonville, Florida, I see a car turn a corner and there's a guy hanging over the car shooting a gun. And lo and behold, when the other cars come, he's shooting at the police. Wow. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if this guy has the nerve and the gumption to shoot at the police, what is he going to do to an unarmed person like me? So the very next day, I went to my local gun store. I didn't have to take the training course because I was former military. And I purchased myself a firearm so that I could keep it in my car. And in case something happened, and I pray to God it never does. Most law-abiding citizens pray to God that they never have to pull the trigger of a gun. And I made that prayer every single day. But just in case, I want the ability to be able to protect myself, my family, or those individuals around me that may find themselves in a dangerous condition.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I got to agree with that, man. Like, and I find it kind of astonishing, actually, that you're one of the first people I've actually heard make that argument. Because I got to agree with you, man. I've had a concealed permit now for, like 13 years. I think I've had one. And nowhere in those 13 years have I ever even considered the idea of a tyrannical government. No, I got it because there's some knuckleheads out there that I got a family that I want to make sure we all get home. Yeah. Right. And I've never pulled it on anybody, and I hope that I never do. Right. But I've had some situations that I can tell that if things don't stop, somebody's gonna be pulling something. Yeah. And those are the situations that I want to try to avoid, or make sure that I have the tool to get me home. At no point did I ever think about the tyrannical government coming and taking over.
And I got something to add to that with you, Trinity. And Greg, tell me if you can relate to this. In all the times that Trinity and I have been friends, and we've been very close to each other for over 10 years now, not once have we seen each other's guns. Not once.
Wow.
No, you know what? You're right. Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah. I'm not waving it around everybody.
Yeah. So it's just like sexually, we don't show each other our weaponry. We don't show each other our weaponry.
I did though send you a picture of the shotgun I bought for the house though, because it was on sale and I figured you might want one.
Right. Well, don't send me those pics again. Those are very bad pics. Anyway, so here's another thing. Greg, are you an only child?
I am. Yes.
Okay. Trinity, you have brothers and sisters though, but you were raised
do.
as an only child, right?
Sort
Kinda.
of, yeah.
Yeah. All right. It was see, I'm not. I have a brother. And so what this reminds me, and maybe you guys can relate to this like in a classroom. You ever been in a classroom where one person does something wrong, so the entire class has to pay the price?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
See, I was the kid that did something wrong, and everybody would have to pay the price, right? So whether it was in
Thanks,
my
Louis.
house or whether it was, and then so, you're welcome. But but what I'm talking about is nobody likes that situation that you are not the one that did it, but you're penalized because some jackass chooses to do something wrong, right? Somebody chooses to disobey
Sure.
somehow. And in houses, it happens a lot, especially if you have 4, 5, 6 kids, 7 kids, or whatever. I don't have that. We don't have that many. We're just 2 of us. But it's enough that where you go, well, then how can he go out, but I can't go out? Or how come they're allowed to do this, but I'm not allowed to do this? And the parent always had some sort of understanding of, wait a minute, because that person did this, they're getting straight A's. Like my brother always had straight A's. My brother was always a good kid. My brother listened. Like even though he did bad stuff, he did it so well that they never knew he did it. Whereas me, I had no, like my brother used to say, you have no tact, Louis. And no, I don't have any tact. I didn't have any tact. So I'd always get caught. So the what I'm saying here is that's how some of these rules and laws come to be. Like when they were talking about this gun thing on the Supreme Court, they kept talking about this 18-year-old kid that did the shooting the other day, this other young kid that did the shooting the other day. And it's like, wait a minute. That has nothing to do with the millions, or maybe it's thousands, of legal gun owners, like all 3 of us, that didn't do that. And,
Right.
and we all know, look, we obey the rules and the laws of the gun. So putting more laws out there only looks at people like us because we're going to obey them. But the criminals, when I used to carry it criminally, I didn't listen to any law criminally. I mean, I got my first gun criminally at 15 years old. It was a MAC-10. I didn't obey any gun laws at 15 years old with my gun. You know what I'm saying? So how are you going to apply that? Because we know the people that do the most damage are not the concealed weapon holders.
Yeah.
I don't know of any concealed weapon holder that's ever done a mass shooting. Has there been
Well,
a concealed weapon holder that's done a mass shooting?
Not that I know of, but you're on to something there. Our last a show we did a few weeks back about I think it was one of the school shootings that happened, whatever. I don't have all the statistics in front of me at the moment because I pulled them up for that show, but we did talk where they were trying to outlaw like assault rifles, but I think it was like 60% of shootings are handguns, not rifles.
Right.
And then they don't ever talk about. They talk about. I think it was a low number. Well, low considering of people who die every year to gun violence, but it's millions of people who are saved every year due to guns.
Yeah.
They don't ever talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And also a lot of the people that I've seen on TV, all these politicians and these very wealthy people that have been talking about guns on TV, they have security around them, and I'm sure their security
And they're
detail
armed.
has guns. So you can feel really safe and easy when you have security detail. I don't have that security detail you guys have, so it doesn't work that way for all of us. So I think those are all things that are just a little bit like you like to say disingenuous, Dharma guy. Now, what about this abortion? Let's go to the Roe v. Wade. Greg, while you were in your situation winning lots of money for your client, the world blew up outside. I don't know if you've been fully caught up on what just happened, but apparently the Supreme Court came out with the ruling that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And so now it's up to the states. Have you been caught up to that, or did you get your alerts on your phone while you were doing your thing?
Listen, this would be breaking news if some imbecile about a month ago didn't leak that this was going to happen. I would be shocked.
Thank you.
I would be shocked if a month ago someone didn't leak this news to us.
Thank you.
But we knew it was coming. I mean,
Yeah, who didn't know?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't understand.
Which I'm still trying to figure out why they haven't identified who that person is and taken appropriate actions, because the sanctity of the courts depends on the confidentiality and making sure that you don't turn the courts into a circus. And by releasing that opinion before time, they turned the U.S. Supreme Court into a circus. And I think that that Chief Justice Roberts needs to do something about what has happened, because it is absolutely ridiculous that now justices cannot make rulings and decisions without being threatened. I mean, Kavanaugh, whether you like him or not, his family does not deserve to be stalked.
No.
He doesn't deserve to have to feel as if any decision he makes will result in his immediate death or harm. And I think that the Justice Department, shame on them, should be taking greater actions in order to protect these justices the same way that they would protect the congressperson. And I think that every single congressperson who has called for any type of violence against any Supreme Court justice for making the decision that they don't agree with, that they should be brought up on charges of treason, in my humble opinion, because that is absolutely ridiculous. It's trying to force a justice to make a ruling or decision based on their whims as opposed to what the law and what the Constitution tells us. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Right,
Yeah, I
right,
find
right.
when they were doing the confirmation stuff, right? I don't know if we ever talked about that, like prior to when we were transitioning between shows. But it was disappointing to me when they were doing all the confirmation stuff, the way they were raking some of these people over the coals, calling into question their integrity. For me personally, I found it kind of insulting for them. Like the insinuation that these people who've dedicated their entire lives to law, like they're not
Right.
just regular, ambulance chasers, man. These are like judges who's like,
Yeah.
they've been doing this for a
Hey,
long
he's
time.
up on that terminology.
Hey, bro, I had an ambulance chaser, man, so
That's
I'm
not a good
comfortable
way
with
to say it. That's
it. That'll
offensive
be
right
all right.
there.
I'm not
Greg,
known for not being
I'm
offensive.
sorry for my partner, Greg. I'm sorry.
I'm
Hey,
not.
listen, I don't have to chase ambulances anymore.
Hey, man, it's no big deal. But my point is,
they find me now, so I'm good.
it was mildly insulting.
I was going to say,
though.
and by the way, Trinity, before you finish, my brother prefers airplane crashes and train crashes. They're a lot
money.
better.
Yeah, they're more
Oh.
profitable. But no, I found it mildly insulting though that they were calling into question these people's integrity, that they couldn't do what they've dedicated their entire lives to doing. Like it was crazy to see the way they attack these people, right? Like
Yeah.
the one thing I've known about lawyers, right? Love them or hate them. The one thing I've known about lawyers in all my life is they are the most you could ask anybody what profession they're in, and they'll have an opinion on a ton of other things. I'm talking about friends, like actual friends that I've been with who are lawyers. Then I'm like, dude, I'll ask them a question, and it's not in the law that they practice, and they won't even, as a friend, when I know that I'm not going to hold them accountable, even then, they will not give me an opinion. Their answer to me is, "That's not the kind of law I practice."
Well, listen, what a lot of people don't realize is that the practice of law, and I say this not just because I'm an attorney, but it is a very honorable profession because we are self-regulated and we are harder on ourselves than anyone else can imagine. And it's because the people who come to us, whether it's as a plaintiff in a lawsuit, whether it's personal injury, contract disputes, business cases, they trust us to handle their cases to the best of our ability. Now, are there bad seeds? It's bad season, everything. And so, and there's some, lawyer jokes actually started in law school. We make jokes about ourselves. But I mean, for the most part, it is a very honorable profession, and it is one that serves a public good. And I mean, what is it? Was it Hamlet? The famous saying, kill all the lawyers. The precept to that statement was, if you want chaos, you must kill all of the lawyers. If you go back, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that is the true meaning of it, because it meant that the lawyers were there to keep the sanctity and the things that were taking place that were right. But moving back to Roe v. Wade, gentlemen, I don't think people realize this, but people keep saying that the high court, that abortion is now illegal. That is not what that decision says. That decision says that the decision as to how the timelines as to when abortions are able to move forward is up to the states. It did not say, and it has not said anywhere, that abortions are now illegal. Now, the other thing, too, is that people should judge themselves accordingly, that when they do things that grown people do in order to have children, we know what children come from. There's really not a stork that comes and drops a kid off on our porch. There has to be some active participation in it. Now, the one caveat, again, incest and rape, listen, I don't even want to, I think that's up to the person, but all other circumstances, abortion was never intended to be a form of birth control. And I think that when people realize that they'll understand that the guidelines and things that science have told us about when life begins, that we need to be very careful about allowing folks just to go and use this as a form of birth control, as opposed to saving the life of a mother or saving the life of a child that would not otherwise be viable. So.
Yeah, I like you said that, first of all, my mother had a choice to abort me because I was very premature. And they had told her that if she goes full term with me or tries to go full term with me, either she will lose her life or I will lose my life. And her and my father made the decision to take it all the way through. Let's see where it takes us. And I'm alive today because of it. So maybe I'm biased because of that. But I mean, there's a lot of people like me out there that
Yeah.
my mother made a choice for me to be born. You
Yeah.
know, and there's a lot of children like me that exist that would never have had a life should that it have been done. Now, I'm not trying to make the decision for other people. That's on them. But I can tell you that I'm just a blessed individual that my mother chose to risk her own life to have me. And there was a medical concern. It was a
Yeah.
medical. It wasn't just, oh, this is not timely. I don't have the money. I don't want to. I don't want to tell my parents I'm pregnant. It wasn't any of those situations. It was a medical concern, and she chose to have me. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that wish they could have children, and because of medical reasons they can't have children, and they go through an enormous amount of pains and struggle and financial situations to try to have a kid, through in vitro and all these other expansions of science that we've been able to experience. So there are so many other ways to do this, and I think that people really should explore these other situations prior to making the decision for abortion.
Yeah.
However, the issue when it comes to this, and Trinity says it a lot, is that as men, because we're men, even though we are 50% responsible for the pregnancy, for some reason, whenever we speak about this issue, people get really upset and say, well, you have no right to even have an opinion on this issue. And as a good father, as a good man, as a good husband, I take offense to that because I look at, wait a minute, I'm not one of these other cats that ran out on you. I'm not one of these other dudes that lacked my responsibility. I'm the other half. I'm the guy that did stick around, that did uphold my responsibility, that did do things correctly. So I do have an opinion and a thought on this, and I'm a girl dad. And as a girl dad, I have a even more opinions on the issue because I want to protect my daughters and to protect my potential grandchildren. So Greg, speaking to all of that, how do we as men continue to have a voice in this? When apparently it's going to the trend that we should never have a say-so on this.
I mean, listen, during the whole Kavanaugh thing, and it's interesting, Trinity, that you even mentioned that. Remember what we were told. Men should just sit down and shut up. I forget which congresswoman it was.
I don't remember.
And I think that, in today's society, too much effort has been put on silencing men when our society needs the voice and the direction of men as it is. A lot of what we see in society that's taking place with these young men out of control, different things like that. And listen, God bless the single mothers who raised their children and the grandmothers who did that. But it is with a doubt that wholesome societies need both a mother and a father, or a female and a male figure, in order to have a meaningful society. And I know I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but I think that men need to continue to be fearless in our opinions and what we believe is the right way to guide and to lead our families, and the right way to guide and to lead our communities, and the right way to guide and to lead our country. Because there is this movement, and this movement has been taking place for about a decade and a half now, where people just want men to sit down and shut up. And when that happens, that means that only one aspect of our society is allowed to give an opinion, but it's us in this thing together. So I think the men have to continue to be fearless and respectfully. And listen, we have to respect that, everyone has the right to do what they want, their bodies and different things like that, or a right to their opinions. But other people have to understand that we have the same rights. I mean, as a girl dad also, and as a dad in general, I would hope and I would want that decision to be mine and my wife's as to whether or not we have children. I don't want her making that decision for me, because at the end of the day, get this, gentlemen, at the end of the day, one of the things that I think about a lot is Greg Jackson, or the Jackson family line. Where's that going to end up?
Right.
That is through our children. And if someone takes that ability for me to continue my bloodline and continue my legacy because I don't have any children, that's not fair to me either. And so, from a selfish point of view, yeah, I think that men need to have an equal voice. Listen, when they drag you into court for child support, they want our money to pay for child support. So we should have an equal voice also in, bringing and rearing a child.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't
Trinity,
agree more,
what's Terry Jordan from Facebook Live saying?
Yeah. Well, I have a few comments, but I'll read his first. He said, we don't have an opinion because at the end of the day, it's the woman's choice. I mean, my personal response to that was,
Well, you still have an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I have an opinion, but also like the choice was made prior to, like the choice was made to have
Right.
sex with somebody like that. People
Right.
keep forgetting that's the first choice, right? Like the choice of abortion or not or whatever.
Dude, if it
That's
was our choice,
secondary.
we would.
Good.
First of all, guys, I think we can all agree that if it was up to us, we would have had sex with a lot more women. If it was just our choice alone,
Yeah.
all of our numbers would have been a lot higher. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? There's a lot of women that had some choices there and said,
Well, the
"No,
two-
Louis."
the two things I would say though about what to kind of just piggyback off of what Mr. Jackson was saying was, number one, I think if you look at the statistics, the number one precursor for children growing up to be a problem and having many issues was our father in the home. The fatherless homes is the number one indicator all across race, religion, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's fatherless homes.
Right.
And then the second one I'll say is, and this is just more of a fact, just to comment on what we're saying. I found this out and I was shocked to find this out. And Greg, being in law, you might already know this. I had zero rights to my children when they were born because I was not married to their mother. When I say zero, I mean nothing. She could have basically just said, nope, you're not going to talk to me. And there's nothing I could have done about it.
Yeah.
So in order for me to go forward and get the parenting plan in place that I wanted, I first had to prove paternity. Once I proved paternity, then I started having, but my rights were not automatically in place. I had to fight for the rights to my children because I was not married.
Right.
I don't personally agree with that. We made them together. She shouldn't. So like when it comes to the abortion thing, so to back up just a little bit, I personally do have a problem as a father. I've got 4 kids, right? 2 are mine, 2 are through marriage. And the idea that I could maybe not have my 2 little babies right now because my ex at the time, or she's ex now, but at the time, if she would have just on a whim decided she just didn't want to have them, then that means I wouldn't have my kids now, and I have no choice in that. Like, no, I'm never going to agree with that ever.
Right.
Right. And it's interesting, and I'm saying this kind of tongue in cheek, but for the person that says men don't have a choice because it's the woman's choice, or men don't have an opinion because it's the woman's choice, that's the easy way out. That's the easy way out, to say, I don't want to be responsible for this. I'm gonna leave that decision all up to the woman. And it's kind of funny because it reminds me, I don't know if you all were following this story, but there was a man, and I forget the country that he was in, but there was this man who married his wife, and he filed for a divorce from his wife, and I believe it was granted because every day that they were married, the only thing she cooked was ramen noodles. That's all she cooked. So for him, he had no choice in what to eat. But guess what? He did have a choice, and he exercised that right by divorcing her. Now, I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek, and this is the real story if you want to look it up. I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek. But at what point are we going to stop? When are we going to stop saying, oh, it's all the woman's decision and choice to do whatever they want to do or to make whatever decisions they want to do? First off, I think that's irresponsible to put all of that responsibility on any one person. So you're not really doing a woman a favor by saying, oh, you know what? It's all up to you. It's your choice. No. You're doing a disservice to her and your relationship as well. It should be a joint decision. That is a very difficult decision that 2 individuals that were responsible for creating this life made together. It's too easy to say, oh, I have no opinion. It's her right. No, that's the easy way out. You have to be fearless about this. You have to be fearless about wanting to be a part of what you created.
Right. And just like we have the guardian ad litem system, when a child is a young child, a juvenile, and both parents may be disagreeing, or the parents may be the abusers of that child, there's a guardian ad litem.
That's right.
Maybe we need a guardian ad litem, as soon as conception. As soon as a pregnancy is validated, maybe there should be a guardian ad litem in place to start resolving this issue, because I think to some, that could be a problem. I'm sure there's a lot of men out there that wish their children were alive today. I'm sure there's a lot of people applauding it. And for anyone thinking that this was just a guy thing, I'm flipping from CNN to the Fox News, and there's just as many women applauding today as others. I mean, a matter of fact, on Fox, I see a lot more women applauding than men. When I'm flipping the channels right now. So this is not a men anti-woman thing. This is a belief system. This is about a belief system that when a person is pregnant, that a life already exists. Just like many of you believe that if there's a turtle egg in a mound, that should be protected and not messed with. And it's a federal crime to mess with a turtle egg. that's protected. Well, this is the same. A baby egg, fertilized is just as precious as that turtle egg, if not more. But we have not treated a baby egg as precious as a turtle egg in our society for whatever reason. We just tend to pass laws that just make us feel better. We just want to feel better because today we don't want it. So today my rights are more important than the real rights. No, there are real rights, and those babies do have rights. And we need to figure that out. Now, again, whatever we decide as a people, I'm willing to back it up. If it's legal, I'll back it up. If it's illegal, I'll back it up. I'm just one voice out of many. I do believe in our system, and I have to believe in our system because this is a country that I chose to live in. This is a country I chose to raise my children in, and I'll voice my opinions through my individual vote. But we have to respect each other's opinion and each other's vote. And I think what's been happening is you have social opinion, which tends to sway a certain way. So we think everyone feels like this. No, they don't. Half the country disagrees with you. I don't care what side you're on. Half the country disagrees with you. And it doesn't make you right, and it doesn't make them wrong. So in closing with this, Greg, as an attorney, and as we move forward with such difficult issues, as an attorney, how do we separate our emotions from fact and law? How do we do that?
It's hard, and not everybody can do it. But, I think that when you start to think about things from the greater good of the collective, as opposed to the greater good of an individual or a specific group, I think that helps us to separate, some of the emotion from, the legal or the technical way of doing things. But it's hard for people. Not everyone can do that. I mean, we are, the reason that this country became the country that it is because, two guys were upset about how they were being taxed and how they were being treated as colonists in this country. So, but then they came to and they wrote some laws in the Constitution. They put everything together. But our initial reaction more times than not is emotional. And so it's a matter of realizing that, is this something for me or is this something for the greater good of the collective? And we just have to be willing to do that. And not a lot of folks are, number one, willing to do it. And the ones who are willing to do it, not a lot of people are able to do it. And those who are able to do it aren't willing to do it at times.
Perfect. And Greg, so how does this affect Florida? The last two rulings that we've seen, how does this really affect us as Floridians, or does it?
I don't think it does. I mean, here in our state, like 11, Ron DeSantis has kind of led the way in terms of how the state is going to operate with regards to abortion, how the state is going to operate with regards to gun laws. And so I think that the state of Florida is already in line with what the U.S. Supreme Court has set forth. And so I don't think that we here in the state of Florida are really going to be affected. Now, the ones who are going to be affected, I mean, you're talking about New York, you're talking about California, you're talking about Washington State, I believe you're talking about Oregon. Those are going to be the states that are, and there are others, I'm sure, Michigan, those are the states that are going to really be affected by these rulings. And, when you have people that are saying already, i.e. the state of New York, we're going to find ways to not adhere to this ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, that tells you right there that we're going to have some issues and some problems.
Wow.
I had a quick question from a legal perspective. Do you know what the child in utero the law is, the Unborn Victims of Violence Act of 2004? Are you familiar with that one?
Not as much as I probably should be, because you're asking me the question right now.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is there's a federal law now that states that if you commit an act of violence on a pregnant woman and she's got a fetus, it's within her, you are now charged with 2 counts of violence. Right. So I think it's interesting that we have a federal law that signifies, yes, that's an actual person that you just violated in that case. But and people are either don't know or don't care about that law, but then want to argue that when it comes to abortion, is not a real person or whatever. Well, which is it? Because there's a law that clearly states that if you do something to a pregnant woman, you just violated 2 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah. If you commit crime, if you murder a pregnant woman, if you murder a pregnant woman, it's not just 1, it's 2.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, remember the case of Scott Peterson, his pregnant wife, and I mean, you're absolutely right.
So in that case, that's a living person who has rights that we just violated. But in the other case, they're not her person. Well, which is it? Make up your mind.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. These things are they're a lot more difficult. we sway with our emotions too quickly to call people racist. We sway too quick to call someone, against, homophobic. We sway too quickly to call somebody anti-female. This doesn't mean anti anything. It simply means like maybe we need some more discussion and conversation about it to figure out this deal a little bit deeper. What I like about this show today, look, we have a white, brown, and black person here talking. We're all different. We're all unique. We're from different backgrounds completely. Yet we can have a conversation about it. And I think that mimics what real society needs to be. You need to be able to have conversation about it. But I can already hear it. Look, as soon as I said that, I already heard in my head, yeah, but there's no female on there right now. Well, you don't know how we identify. We're allowed to be. Men have changed that. Men have changed that rule too, because there's men out there that have chosen to say, you know what, I identify as woman. You have to address me as a woman. So men have taken that right, to a whole new level as well. And that's
we didn't even talk about the swimming rule.
Oh yeah,
we didn't talk about that.
The FINA rule. Yeah.
There's a new law that came out like a week or so ago that addressed the I guess I don't know how to refer to it, but basically women transitioning into women can no longer swim against other women who are born that way, essentially. Which I think personally is a good idea, and I think that means other sports are most likely going to follow suit. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean that's from derived from Leah Thompson, who was a swimmer, and I said a swinger. That's a swimmer. I apologize. A swimmer from Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean, and I think it's the right decision because before Leah Thomas, and God bless him or her, it's his right to identify with who he wants to identify with in today's age. And listen, I wholeheartedly support that. But before he began the transition, I think he was like number 586.
He was right in the middle of the pack. Yeah.
And then he starts competing against women, or Leah starts competing against women, and all of a sudden she becomes the number one swimmer in the NCAA, breaking records and things like that. Yeah. That is an indication that there has to be something in place. And the unfortunate thing, here's a really unfortunate thing, is that there were a number of female athletes who could not even speak out against what was taking place because of the backlash that they would have felt because of the unfairness and having to compete against someone who was biologically a man.
Their own school school told them they're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. So women are being suppressed. Even women are being suppressed by this.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's certain issues like that we joke all the time that Trinity can't talk about because he's a white male. So being a white straight male, he can't talk about it. Being certain issues, we do. Well, we take that risk, man. I mean, when you take the risk to just have conversation, it's a risk these days. I mean, the canceling is real. The way people view you is real. I know you not to be a racist. Hell, man, we've worked together for a long time. You don't treat me any differently, I don't think, just because I'm Mexicano or Latino. And I appreciate that. But when you say something. Even like if I say something, I've been told, hey man, you've been in the States too long, bro. You're supposed to think like this because you're Latino. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're self-hating. I've been called a self-hater because I thought certain things. It's like I'm not a self-hater. What kind of crap are you talking about? You hear it, Greg. I'm sure that if you say a certain thing, it's like you're not. Well, you've been fooling. You've been wearing that suit too long.
Call me Uncle Tom.
Listen, I've heard pretty much all of it. And the unfortunate thing is. I've heard it from folks who look like me. It wasn't a white person, and I've heard it from people who look like me, and it's unfortunate because if people really and truly look and see how much myself and my good friend Rod Love, how much we've worked in this community and how much we have dedicated ourselves to a community, they should be ashamed of themselves for saying anything derogatory about the things that we do.
Agree.
Right. Which is why we like doing shows like this. Which is why we like doing this show with you. Now, so speak to a little bit about that. How can people hear about you? Hear more what you and your partner Rod Love have to say? Go ahead and take this moment. Go ahead.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate that. For those who don't know, they call me the general. They call me Greg Jackson, but I'm really the general of Let's Talk Nation. My good friend Rod Love. We have a radio program called Let's Talk About It every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we just talk about hard-hitting topics. And, the Dope Doctor and Dharma God, they've been on the show with us because we're able to have real conversations. Like they said, we don't necessarily I take that back. We most times agree on a lot of things, but we don't have a problem with disagreeing with each other where when it's necessary. We just know that we have, our different opinions. But, you can hear us, like I said, every Monday. We're also on Spotify. We're also on iHeartRadio as well as on Apple Podcasts as Let's Talk Nation. So go check out Rod Love and Greg Jackson, the General. So
I love it, love it. And before going, there is one last comment that you probably need to address. Trinity, can you read that for us, please?
Yeah, this is on our Facebook Live. Terry Jordan said, we as black men can't talk about a lot without being flagged or censored. Honestly, it's really about control and not color, though.
Listen, I don't necessarily agree with his comment. But like I said, there has to be a sense of fearlessness in speaking what you believe. One of the funny things is when the Trayvon Martin case happened, I actually was asked to be on a number of news casts talking about the stand your ground law. And I was, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I was actually one of the first people to step out and challenge people to see why it is that the stand your ground law was actually put into place and why it applied. And I also was one of the first people to say that George Zimmerman was not going to be found guilty based on the stand your ground law, based on my reading of the law. And it was because I had that sense of fearlessness of being able to just speak based on the law, not my personal feelings and different things like that. And so, there are a lot of times that African-American men, if we say certain things, we are ostracized, by our own community. But if you continue to speak the truth, if you continue to speak based on what the laws and what the facts are, eventually you'll find that you're justified. And you can continue to speak just like me. Listen, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I know that I have a lot of folks that don't like me and wish I wouldn't say certain things. But I just have this certain fearlessness and this certain sense of I have to say what is.
And here's where I'll end with that, and I like your answer to that, but I'm gonna point out a couple of things that could be considered interesting, I guess.
Oh, boy.
As a Latino male, I know how many countries are Latino countries, right? There's a lot of Latino countries, right? But I want to ask you something. Think of all the Latino countries that you could put in your head. Just think of all the Latino countries. Go ahead and just let that Rolodex play. And you tell me if any of those Latino countries are as diverse or as accepting of other cultures, languages, and religions as this one. Any of them?
None I can think of.
Okay. So now I want you to think about it different. I want you to think of all the black countries that are majority black. Are any of the majority black countries that you could put in your head right now, let the Rolodex play through, are any of them as open, as accepting, as diverse, or as inclusive as this country?
No. So you kill me with the inclusive part, maybe the diverse, but not the inclusive.
Okay. So you're thinking that some are more diverse? You think that there's a predominantly black country that has as many religions, faiths, colors, and all that as this one?
Maybe not as many religions, but I would say probably not equal colors, but quite a few different colors and different nationalities within their boundaries. So,
okay, would you compare it as equal to this one?
No place is as great as the United States in terms of diversity and inclusion.
And then I'm going to end it with this one. And now, mind you, remember, I'm not what's considered. The only people that considers white males are depending on census and stuff like that, because as Latinos, we like to call ourselves brown. We just like to be different than both y'all. We'll let you guys fight it out. But so now let's go to the white cultures, the traditional white cultures that we're talking: England, France, United States, Canada. Let's talk those four. Those four. Would we not consider those probably the most diverse countries and inclusive?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that's what I would end with. So in other words, all this white hate that I grew up with in my head, not from my parents, because my parents told me, don't do that, Lou. That's not right. But I grew up in my head. I was anti-white many times in my life. And I have learned through maturity and through opening my eyes and not allowing certain feelings and emotions to get attached to it. I've noticed, you know what? White people love us and have included us in their countries a hell of a lot more than we included them in ours.
Yeah.
They have been a lot better partner than we have been to them. And now you could take it, you could believe differently. I'm just saying that when I study history, and I study history pretty darn good, history was one of my favorite subjects, and it continues to be to this day. But I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not saying that white people are innocent. I'm not saying that they haven't done bad, but we all have. Latinos did a lot in slavery. Latinos were heavily involved in slavery. But I know there's a lot of biasness within my own culture towards other colors, whether it be white and black, if equal to, if not worse than white people. And so I'm just taking responsibility of that. And I know that my black friends will say there's been a lot of biasness from them as well. Greg, I would assume that you've heard a lot of biasness that we don't hear. And, but the only one we tend to pick on is that of the white man. So when talking about that, we need to remember that with all things, whether it be sex, whether it be religion, whether it be color, we all tend to view it out of whatever lens tends to make us feel a certain type of way. But in reality, people are good. But if you really think about it, you'd say people suck, man. There's a lot of people out there just people suck, because that's we show our suckiness on TV. We show our suckiness in social media, and we show our suckiness when we fight. But in reality, we're a lot better than we present. We're a lot more accepting of other people than we present, and we need to practice that a lot more. I really appreciate you, Greg, for your openness, for your honesty, for your leadership. And the more I get to know you, the more I really do appreciate you and respect you and love you as a human being. Truly, Greg. Thank you for all you do for our society and for our area. And I'm glad you're here. And we definitely will have you and Rod on many more future shows, and we'll always be open to being invited on yours. So thank you very much, Greg.
No, listen, and before I jump off, I want to say thank you to you and Trinity as well for being fearless and not being afraid to touch on topics that need to be talked about and discussed. I mean, you guys are, you are our, our counterparts, and you are superheroes too, because you all are not afraid to come in and sit down and have a real conversation. And it takes some nerve and some gumption to be able to do that. And we appreciate you guys for doing that as well.
Thank you, brother. We'll talk again. That was Greg Jackson right there, attorney at law. Find him. Man, I love that guy, Trinity.
Yeah, no, dude, him and Rod are both. The only thing I don't like about them is they always make me feel like I'm underdressed. Both of them.
That's the only thing I don't like. Dude, you are. You always are.
With that because I'm around the people I'm around. But when I get in front of them, I'm like, oh man, maybe should I have dressed up a little bit better? But no, awesome. I never do anyway. So I'm in my uniform, tank top and shorts.
That's awesome. So while we were on, President Biden did go on.
I heard.
Speak to it. I mean, I didn't see the specifics, didn't hear the specifics
I didn't
of what
either.
he said, but I can only assume.
I got updates on my phone.
I can only assume that he didn't get out there and applaud it.
No, I'm going to assume he read it.
And these days, you can assume that, right? You can assume that because we are of political parties. People are of political parties. That's why I love that we are the middle. We, the middle, on this show. You may think that you know what Trinity and I are going to say on a particular issue, but do you? Do you really? I don't think you do. Because we can venture on both sides on a lot of these things. But anyway, so that was the Supreme Court's been shocking people. That's what we've been talking about today.
I think they've got more coming out too, by the way. I think there's more decisions. Yeah, I think that they had a whole bunch that they're going to release between now and like July, I think.
Oh, really? So this is going to be like a daily update kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's daily or not, but I want to say I read somewhere where they have like a whole bunch of them that they're just releasing.
What else? What else is? I mean,
who knows, man? I don't know. I don't know.
You have an insider? Do you have an insider?
No, it hasn't been leaked to me. I don't know if they're as important or as monumental as these two, but I know that they've got more decisions that are supposedly coming out. So we'll see.
Right. Well, I think we said just about all that needs to be said. And any final words from you? Me too, man.
Yeah, no, only thing I would say with the Supreme Court stuff and moving forward is understand that the Supreme Court's job isn't to like make laws. It's not even to enforce the laws. It's literally just to interpret it. So if you're instead of getting mad at the Supreme Court for interpreting it, like first and foremost, stop thinking that you are better at interpreting the law than the Supreme Court. These people have dedicated their entire lives. They have forgotten more about law than we've probably learned. So I'm not going to judge their ability or their capacity to interpret the law as is. So if you have a problem with it, instead of taking it out on the Supreme Court or getting mad at them or whatever, go to your legislators. They're the ones who actually write the laws. Right. The ones who enforce it are the officers to show up to your door, but the ones who write the laws are your elected positions. The gentleman we had on earlier, Scott Sturgill, if you like what he says, vote for him. If you don't like what he says, don't vote for him. But you can't stop taking it out on people who are just doing their job. Their job is to interpret the law as written. I feel pretty confident in their ability to do so. So moving forward, if you don't like the things that are taking place, That's why we vote, people. And
Yeah.
stop voting only in the presidential election. There's other elections out there. Your local ones matter a lot more to you in your day-to-day life than just the presidential. There's
A
people who
lot
don't
more.
vote but like once every 4 years, and they don't realize that every 2 years there's other elections happening. And so pay attention to those things, figure out and then start voting. Like I remember when I was younger, I didn't care about politics. I thought, it doesn't affect me, and my vote doesn't matter. Blah, blah. Boy, was I wrong, man. Like I was 100% wrong. It does matter, and your vote does matter, and you're seeing it right now play out in front of you. It matters. So vote. Stop whining and complaining about Supreme Court justices doing what they do better than you'll ever do.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop calling things unconstitutional. There is nobody listening or watching this that is more educated about the Constitution than the people on that Supreme Court. I think I can say that 100% factual.
Yeah.
There's none of us are as educated as those people on constitutional law. And the other thing, look, for all you Crips out there, it matters to you who the local Crip leader is a lot more than the national Crip leader. And to all you Bloods out there, it matters to you who the local Blood leader is than the national Blood leader. You want to vote with your gang and your sect, you go right ahead. You want to still be a Crip, be a Crip. You want to vote all Blood, you be a Blood. Trinity and I, we're in the middle. We need to prescribe both. Look, red, white, blue hat on today. Both sides. Look, Trinity has red and blue on. I got red and blue on. We're neither Crips nor Bloods. But you want to be that, that's fine. You know, we're not faulting you for that. We're just more in the middle. And you want to make your point to us, make your point. We might vote your way if you make a good enough point. Today we had people from both sides. We had Scott Sturgill going for Congress. He's a Blood. We had Greg Jackson on. He's an attorney. He's a Crip. We had both. And we all could agree on these issues that the Constitution was followed today. Apparently that's what we learned today, Trinity. The Constitution was followed, whether we like it or not. It's what's followed. And we shall see how it takes us moving forward. But don't let these talking heads on television, whether it be CNN or Fox, manipulate you and get you all into a frenzy, acting as if something illegal or wrong just happened. These things were already written, and just somebody said, this is the way it was written. This is the way it should be followed because this is the way it was written. You want to change it? There are processes to do that. But I think what we can really learn from all this is if you truly want to change something, serve. If you truly want to be part of something, serve. You serve. You don't like the way law enforcement is, become law enforcement. You don't like the way politics are, become a politician. You don't like the way school is taught, become a teacher. Get involved in what you're complaining about if it's going to disrupt your life so badly. I wanted to make money my way, which is why I'm a business owner. You got to make decisions based on what really matters to you. And if it doesn't matter that much to you, then just voice your opinion on shows like this. You're allowed to be wrong and you're allowed to be right. It's no big deal. Anyway, that's us. If they want to follow us, go to @the Dharma Guy. You can go to @the Dope Doctor, all levels of social media. Next show that we'll be doing is Monday night. Hopefully, I'll be in Philadelphia or Maryland Monday night, but I'll be in my hotel room. Trinity, I'll get the best Wi-Fi. We'll figure it out. We'll do our show on Monday night. It's the Couch Live, which we focus on addiction and related issues like that. And then on Tuesday, it'll be Dharma time. We'll have to figure out that timing, Trinity, because I will be in Maryland or Delaware on that day. We'll figure that out. And then, of course, next Friday, I'll be back here in Florida, and we'll be doing, who knows what news will be going out, because that's when we do We the Middle, and that's more of a political agenda. But anyway, from Trinity, myself, and all of us here on Dope and Dharma, adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.